So the procedure for how police respond in the event of a mass shooting has changed in the United States since Columbine. It used to be that police would assume it was a hostage situation and that hostages would only be murdered if, the hostage taker didn't receive what he demanded. But since Columbine, that assumption has been discarded, and the assumption now is that if you don't respond immediately, this could be a mass casualty event, that it could be, a mass shooting for the sake of that mass shooting, not a hostage situation or a murder because a hostage or because a demand has not been met. And a New York Times correspondent by the name of Mike Baker posted this on Twitter, and I want to read a couple of these tweets. He said, "I've spent the past few days researching the training of Uvalde officers, including the tactics they were expected to use to halt school shooters. The documents are jarring. Here's a thread of our findings so far. In the past 2 years," he writes, "the Uvalde School District has hosted at least 2 active shooter training days. One of them was just 2 months ago. The trainings included both classroom teachings and role-playing scenarios inside school hallways." And he posts a picture of this. This is from their training manual, from their exercise. He said the Uvalde training session 2 months ago relied on guidelines that give explicit expectations for officers responding to an active shooter. The training is clear. Time is of the essence. The first priority is to move in and confront the attacker. The first priority on their training slide says, "Stop the killing." Officers' first priority is to move in and confront the attacker. Mike Baker then writes, "But how should officers confront the gunman? With a tactical team? The training says that's probably not feasible because the urgency is so high. A single officer," the training says, "may need to confront the suspect on their own." This is, again, I'm going to read from the training slide. It says, "The short duration and high casualty rates produced by these events requires immediate response to reduce the loss of life. In many cases, that immediate response means a single solo officer response until such times as other forces can arrive. The best hope that innocent victims have is that officers immediately move into action to isolate, distract, or neutralize the threat, even if that means one officer acting alone." Baker says the guidelines provide sobering clarity. The first officers may be risking their lives, but it says innocent lives take priority. This is the training manual. First responders to the active shooter scene will usually be required to place themselves in harm's way and display uncommon acts of courage to save the innocent. As first responders, we must recognize that innocent life must be defended. A first responder unwilling to place the lives of the innocent above their own safety should consider another career field. That's the training manual that Uvalde police officers, this is the training that they underwent 2 months before the shooting. They were told, if you're not willing to do this, to show this uncommon courage, then this is not the career field for you. That the first person to get there should respond. And the first person to respond should understand that that might mean that they're seriously injured or might even die in the line of duty. This is from the training of the Uvalde police officers. It is similar in no way to the actual response from law enforcement at the time of this shooting. Why? Why was this different? Why wasn't this training manual adhered to? I simply don't buy the excuse that this incident commander thought that it wasn't a mass shooting event, that everyone had been killed, that this was now a hostage situation barricaded away. I don't buy that. How could anyone be that stupid? How could you be this stupid? But this is the procedure. After Columbine, it's immediate entry. And yet at Uvalde, we had children calling over and over, crying for help. Now, this is the timeline, right? That's the what happened. The what happened. And I think we've all watched in horror, really, as the facts have surfaced in the past week. And since this has happened, we want to give law enforcement officers the benefit of the doubt. They're sworn to serve and protect, and most of them do so. Most of them do show uncommon courage. Most of them are willing to sacrifice their safety and maybe even their lives in protection of us and our communities. And so our inclination is to give the benefit of the doubt. But as we've answered this question of what happened, we've seen that this response was botched in a way that led to more children dying. That's the stark reality of the thing. And there's several important takeaways from this, right? There's several important things that we should understand based on this response. The first is that the left tells us every time there's a mass shooting, every time there's a crime committed with a firearm, the left tells us that if we want to save lives, then, we have to get on board with the left's gun control agenda. And when I say gun control, I mean their anti-gun agenda. They want to ban guns. They want to confiscate guns. They want the government to be in charge of guns and giving you the privilege of using guns in certain circumstances if they like you. Very, very anti-Second Amendment, very anti-firearm. And the left tells us when we say, well, wait a second, how do we keep ourselves safe if we're not allowed to own a firearm? If we aren't allowed to, have an AR-15, if we're not allowed maybe per Biden, and we'll get to this part in a minute, even own a handgun, how are we supposed to defend ourselves? And they tell us, well, this is what the police is for. The police will defend you. The police will protect you. Why do you need to take this in your hand when there's a trained professional whose duty it is to protect you, to serve you? And one of the big takeaways from this is the same police that the left wants us to rely on. The left wants to disarm us and tell us that we can rely on police who, remember, are officers of the state. And this is the same police the left wants us to trust after we're disarmed. Yet in the moment of truth, not every police officer will protect you. Not every police force will keep their community safe.